Hey guys, Joebizz34 back again, and I'm doing something a little different this time. One of my other loves, since I was a little kid, is for Godzilla and all his merry friends, which in Japan they're referred to as Kaiju, spelled K-A-I-J-U, which sounds like Keiju or Kaiju, but it's actually pronounced with an H sound. J's are pronounced a lot of times with a H sound, like in Japan, and it's actually pronounced Kaiju. And I've heard them say it in movies that way, and it's funny because I wasn't really sure, and I've seen it written more than actually said, so I actually found the site that has like a Japanese man's pronounced words. You actually hear it just to make sure I'm saying it right, and that's how he pronounced it. He said Kaiju. Which translates to strange creature, but in America simply meaning monster. And that's what these Godzilla figures have known to do. So, as you know, there's been many years where a company called Bandai, spelled B-A-N-D-A-I, have been releasing, Godzilla toys forever. And I have a few of those to show too. This guy back here, this MechaGodzilla, is not of the same line that I'm reviewing here. That is actually a DX Bandai MechaGodzilla that makes sounds and stuff, and I'll get into that in a minute. And actually, it fits right in, even though it's not the same line as these bad boys. These are made by, I think on the box, they're technically called like Garage Toys, but they're part of the what they call X Plus series. And in Japan, they were exclusive only to to that country. You can get them here, but you'd have to pay like a lot of shipping, and you have to like be hooked up with somebody like a dealer or know when they're coming out. Otherwise, you get them on eBay and they go up really fast in value. Especially this guy right here, and I'll explain. So to give you a short history, these are these sizes are 12 inches, 30 centimeter. They refer to it as 30 centimeter, which is roughly around 11 to 12 inches. And they have a smaller scale too. They call the large series, which was 25 centimeters, which is more like, I guess, like between the 8 and 10 inch range. But I like these, and I don't know, maybe it's because I'm used to collecting 1/6 scale figures, that when I wanted to get some of these guys, I was more drawn to the 12 inch size. Obviously, this is not 1/6 scale, so don't mistake in that. If you look on eBay and you type in 1/6 Godzilla, you know that's not right. 1/6 scale happens to turn out to be 12 inches for a human size in that scale. If you were to make a Godzilla in 1/6 scale, he'd have to be like the height of my house in order to match the scale of the human figure. Just like they did the Hulk. Hot Toys did the Avengers Hulk, and because he's bigger than a normal human in 1/6 scale, he almost is a 1/4 scale size. So don't get that mixed up. These are not 1/6 scale. These are 12 inches. But I like 12 inches in a toy. I just think it's the perfect height. Bandai makes a lot of Hot Toys Godzilla collectibles in like a 6 or 7 inch range, and I have a couple of those that I'll show you that in a little bit. I've had that for a while, and I've had a couple of those, and they're cool. They're very detailed, but Bandai's are a little more known. They're a little more popular. They made more stuff, but they're a little more toyish looking. These are a lot more collectible. They're a lot more prop replicas of what they actually do is they're very detailed, very painted very well, weathered, and they mimic the actual suit that the actor wore in the movie, right down to like where there would be like certain seams or hidden where things crunch on the body and the rubber suit. Even the way they make the tail, like this one, the tail is pointing down. And there's a guy on YouTube, I'm going to give him a shout out. His name is Richard Esso, and he is a huge collector. He's into this big time, and he's got a YouTube channel. He posts on a site called KaijuAddicts.com, which gives you a lot of information on these figures and other Godzilla collectibles if you're into that. And go to his channel. Just look up Rich Esso or Richard Esso. ESSO is his last name. And I've talked to him, and I've reached out to him, and he's very friendly. He responds really fast, and he knows a lot about these figures. He knows how to get them, because, like I said, until recently, they weren't being released in the U.S. at all. Now, there is an X Plus USA edition that they're distributing some of these, they're reissuing some of these here in America through the company Diamond, and like Entertainment Earth has pre-orders, Big Bad Toy Store, those kind of places, and that's actually where I got this one. I got this one from Entertainment Earth, this MechaGodzilla. This is the same 30 centimeter MechaGodzilla from the 1960s or the 70s, that they released in Japan originally, but it's a reissue that they did through Diamond here that Entertainment Earth carries, and they have a few others. They have the 1954 Godzilla on there that's 12 inches or 30 centimeters. They're not reissuing the 25 centimeters like the slightly smaller ones from what I understand through Diamond, only the 30 centimeters. But if you go on eBay, you can find a whole bunch of these. It's just that in the aftermarket, they're very high priced. Now, to complicate things further, some of these guys then get reissued in Japan. Even before they come here through Diamond, they would get released in Japan, and then they get reissued in Japan through a company called Rick Boy Limited. And Rick Boy would reissue them with some sort of like exclusive feature or some kind of feature that you can only get through them. And once again, you have to get them imported from Japan. Like with this Godzilla here, this is the 1964. Okay, this is the Rick Boy Limited. I was lucky enough to get them off eBay for a very fair price, considering. I mean, I am not kidding. This particular Godzilla is a very popular looking one, the 1964 look. The original release, the standard, has an open mouth roar. This is closed mouth, and it's the Rick Boy, and his fins actually light up, okay? And I happened to be lucky enough to snag one of these off of eBay for a price of maybe a little more than what you pay for a DX Hot Toys figure. But I've literally seen this guy go for anywhere from $800 to over $1,000, which is just ridiculous, and I would never, ever pay that much for this, regardless of how cool he is. If I didn't find this one for what I found it for, I wouldn't have gotten this one, unfortunately, or I would have just waited for maybe getting my hands on the standard release, which they are going to do through Diamond. But this is the Rick Boy, and I'll show you really quick. It comes with this little box right here that has batteries in it, and they do give you the batteries. At least they sent me the batteries with it. And check that out. How cool is that? I'm going to turn it off so you can see. Back on. That is awesome. Isn't that cool? Look at that. I'm going to turn the light off really quick so you guys can see get a better idea. Okay, so it's a little darker, and it does illuminate, and illuminates, and it's nice. It's nice and bright enough and noticeable even in in daylight. You don't have to have the lights off to even notice that it's on. And this is really cool. And like Rich Esso says on his channel, not all the Rick Boys are necessary to have. Some are cooler than others. This happens to be one of the most popular ones, and I think that's why it goes for such a high price. So that's the 64 version. The MechaGodzilla, they might have a Rick Boy. I don't know if they have a Rick Boy of this guy yet, or if they did where he lights up. This one doesn't light up. Like I said, this is the re-release through Diamond. It's the same exact version that, like I said, was in Japan. He comes with like a little island base to rest a tail on because they say he can't stand on his own. I managed to be able to do it. Oh, that's a little flap that comes off. I'll tell you about that in a minute. I can stand him. I mean, of course he's going to make... There you go. So I do get him to stand without using the display stand. So I'm not sure. But you can open his, close his mouth there. And then he has the little drop... See this little thing? It does fall off a lot on mine. But basically it hooks here, so it exposes like the missile that comes from his chest. And then you can just, hook this on and close it. I'll put the camera down really fast and quickly. Although it does pop off easily, it goes back in just as easily, which I'll just do, and there you go. See? Now it's closed and back in. So it does open and close, but if for some reason mine does kind of fall out sometimes, but it's no big deal. They're all vinyl. All these figures are vinyl, even they look like resin statues. They do have resin versions of these, I think, at some point. I don't know if they're in the same size, but... I'm saying a lot of information about this because this is new. I've never done anything other than like Hot Toys Sideshow. We're very rare. So, I've gotten into this recently and it's really cool. My camera's going to run out, so I got to restart it. So I'm going to take a break here for a minute and I'm going to get into this guy. This is also a 30 centimeter X Plus. This is the Godzilla Millennium Edition, 1999 or 2000, however you prefer, if you go by the Japan release or the US release. And this is also a Rick Boy Limited, and I'll tell you that in a minute. Okay, I'm back. So I really got lucky with this one. I found this one for a very good deal, considering he's a Rick Boy Limited and he's in the aftermarket. I paid less for him than even this guy. He's, like I said, I got really lucky with this guy compared to other prices on eBay. But anyway, I got him, and he's very detailed. This is the Millennium version, the 1999 in Japan, and then the US release here, Godzilla 2000, which I did see, I think, in the movies. They actually released this one in the theaters. And they tried to salvage the Godzilla franchise after the horrible 1998 American version that we did. And they are coming out with the new 2014 one very soon that I'm really hyped for. I'm hoping that it really knocks it out of the park this time. It looks promising from the trailer. So this is also one that has light up fins. It comes with a little thing. And you can take these out, like this one here and this one. There's this little connector that goes in their leg, and you could just pop that right out. Right? It almost looks like a headphone speaker, you know, like headphones that you would plug into a stereo or your computer. Okay, and let me just put the camera down so I can plug this back in. And then I'm going to turn it on. And now, his light up fins aren't nearly as dominant as the blue ones. I mean, you can see it there. Okay, you see them lit up. I'll turn it off and on so you can see the difference in case you're not making it out. See? Off, on. Okay, and like I said, in the dark it does illuminate more and it's got more of a purplish hue. But the cool thing in this one is that you could see it in the mouth, like he's getting ready to spit out fire. It does illuminate in his mouth, and that's really cool. But, once again, if I had to sacrifice one Rick Boy over the other, I'd be okay with just having the standard version of him. And this is much more, I think, you know, noticeable for a Rick Boy. I think this is the coolest Rick Boy one they have, and I don't have all of them. And you could check, like I said, check out Richard Esso, and you know, you'll get a lowdown on a lot of them. So, like I said, this is like the original old-fashioned MechaGodzilla, and these are the two Rick Boys I have, the X Plus 30 centimeters, and they're cool. Now I'm going to pause here for a second, and I'm going to show you some other things. Now I have some other Bandai, what they call DX, and they're basically still more on the toy side, but they're a lot more, they're a little more involved, a little more collectible, and they're more detailed than the average Bandai toy. Bandai is, like I said, they're mostly known for making like 7-inch, 6-inch type figures, and some of them, like depending on which ones you get, really look kind of childish. This is the DX MechaGodzilla from the Godzilla Tokyo SOS. It is 12 inches. He's also 30 centimeters. So if you look at him against, like, you know, he does go well. Now, they do have an X Plus 30 centimeter MechaGodzilla like this that's, you know, a lot more detailed. There are some things that could be a little improved on this figure, and I'll get into that. But, you know, he does blend in with these guys, and he's a little cheaper on the aftermarket than this was only like, I think I only paid like a little over 100 for this guy. But he makes sounds. Okay, and he does things. So I'm going to turn it on here. The on-off switch is right here once you put the batteries in. Okay, you hear that? Look at that. The eyes light up. You have the choice of opening and closing his mouth, so you can see the, see that? Which is very cool. The head and the neck do not articulate, except for the jaw going up and down, but it's cool that the eyes light up. And then you got his infamous drill hand here that he used as a weapon against Godzilla in probably more than one film. These weapons, these guns, like these laser shooters he's got on his wrists, can come on and off. You could take them on and off. I have everything on him right now, but these are attachments, and this is an attachment on his chest. You could take this off. And the sound effects do differ depending if you have these on him or not. Which is really cool. Now there is an additional button by almost like right above his butt area right here that if you press, look at that. Okay, now if you open these up to reveal his weapons on his chest, check this out. Okay, once again, it's always tough doing this with one hand. And you hit that same button, well now it knows, because there's a little trigger thing there that it knows that the door is open, so now it does something different. Watch. How cool is that? So, depending on if you have these open or not, it'll make a different noise, which is very cool. The figure, there's like a rubber suit under the metal, well not metal, like it looks like metal, but it is hard plastic. It's very flexible and posable, so you see you can bend the legs and stuff and the feet, which is cool. And if you move him, he makes other noises. Watch. Now if you go back, he roars. If you go in a flying position, he makes the flying noise. If you go forward, see? Really cool. Now let's lower this again. So, like I said, it's a very cool toy, and the fact that it's basically marketed as a toy, but it's a high-end toy. And it is sought after from collectors. I was lucky, again, to find this one for a pretty good price. There's the tail and stuff on the back. Very detailed. Now, there are some things that I might want to do, because if you look at the X Plus 30cm statue version, there is some further detail that's more screen accurate. Like, for example, right here in his chest area, that's more like a vent, and in the movies and in the X Plus figure, it's black in between those to give it, to kind of blend in more with this kind of scheme right here, this black scheme underneath the metal. So I might actually go in there and just paint it a little bit and customize it myself. And a little weathering could be used to kind of make it a little more metallic looking, or maybe, you know, weather damage looking. And the black undersuit in the movie and in the X Plus figure has much more of a, let me see if I can zoom in there. Here you go. It's got the details in there, but it needs to be highlighted with some weathering. Like if you look at the figure, the character in the movie, or the X Plus figure, there's a lot more, there's like lighter charcoal, grayish, you know, lighter black colors that's over that, so you kind of can pick up a little more of the detail of like what's going on in there under the metal, again, on the suit. It's not quite as dark as it appears on this toy. So like I said, I might do a little bit and maybe customize a little bit on it, like I like to do. But in any case, that's the Bandai DX Godzilla. I have more to show, but I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm going to do a part 2 at some point. I am getting another reissue from Diamond, from Entertainment Earth this month, the Godzilla 2001. So when I get that, I'm going to show that, and then I'm going to show you other Bandai stuff and other DX figures I have. I have a Destroyer that walks and roars, and I got a Space Godzilla and all that stuff. So I'll save that for another video, okay? But in the meantime, look at that. Feast your eyes on the details on that business right there. Godzilla, man. I love Godzilla. And like I said, I'm so hyped for the new one that it's not even funny. So, anyway, until next time, guys, peace out.